Coding time with Clever Coding. This is the 7th video of the ongoing C++ series, and man, I'm loving this. I hope you guys are also loving this and enjoying this. So, for getting everything started before, I have to tell you the 3 main things that I always say why my videos are better than others. First of all, absolutely free, not even a single cent you have to pay. Number 2, it's for beginners. It's beginner friendly. I'm gonna get your hands, I'm gonna hold your hands throughout the entire course so that you could feel comfortable in writing code. And number 3, help service, 24/7, 365, solutions to all your problems. Plus, we're gonna do some awesome, interesting programs and projects we're gonna be making throughout this course, which we're gonna apply in real world. And as apart from that, I'm going to be also sharing my GitHub repository where you could get all my code, whatever I'm going to be writing on this programs, the basic ones. So, without that said, now let's start our code. So we're going to open up our IDE, and I'm going to, 1 minute, let me save these, remove these changes, and I'm going to start from a fresh new file. Okay, so hash include input output stream using namespace standard main okay. So today we're going to be discussing about another data structure which is called an array. So before we've been discussing about integers and also the floats and also doubles, and we've come to know that yeah, we could store at one data as we want. For instance, if we have something like int, and I could say something like credit card, so I could have like a credit card number that I don't want to remember, and the computer will automatically remember this for me. And when it's whenever I want to print it out, I don't have to remember it. I'm just gonna say credit card and just print it out. Once I have to just input it, and then once I'm done, I want to print it out, I could just say 1 minute code 13. Yeah, it's saved, execute, compile, and run. And once I do this, you're gonna see my credit card number. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Takes a little time for the start. Okay, there you go. Is my credit card print out? Okay, so now you could also like as we've been discussing about loops, we could also discuss like how many times you want to print it out. For instance, if I say some kind of num and I say C in num, okay? And then after that, I could say something like while num minus minus, and then put this statement inside a while loop. So what do you think will happen? Well, chances are that first you're gonna see the number. If I say, like, for instance, if I put 5 over here, it's gonna print out 1 time, it's gonna print out the 2nd time, and it's gonna do minus minus decrement, meaning it's gonna do 5 then minus, meaning 4 then minus, then print out, and then 3 then 2 then 1. Once it reaches 1 and it goes again to decrement, it's gonna see 0. So when it's 0, meaning while 0, it's gonna be like this, while 0. So this is 0 means false. Okay, so when it's false, it's gonna break out the loop, and that's it. That's what's gonna happen. So yeah, with that being said, now let's execute this code and see how much. We could also print as much as we want, not only 5, but we could say, like, for instance, if I say 10, now you're gonna see that my credit card number is printed 10 times, and that's awesome. Okay, so now for the awesome stuff what we wanted to discuss in this lecture, and that was related to arrays. So let me just break this out. Okay, tab. Oh man, this is so ugly. 1 minute, I don't want to delete all of that. I'll just delete this, and I'll just let's remove this. Okay, so one thing I wanted to make you guys assured of is that you don't need to include this return 0. It's just a signal to indicate that the program is stopped. I could run a program without that too. So apart from all of that, so let's discuss our arrays. So basically, array, you could like, it could be any kind of type. It could be something like a double. It could be something like a float. It could also be a character, and those are special types of arrays, character arrays, what we've discussed previously in the last lecture. So we're gonna go simple, and we're gonna say int. The array, something like ARR. Okay, so let me get things straight. First of all, you need this square bracket, okay, and then after that, and you put the squiggly brackets, and then put a semicolon at the end. So basically, we've defined an array which has no size. We put the size inside. For instance, I put 10 over here, or for instance, I could put 3 over here. So, and then I could put values inside. Like for instance, I put 1, and then I put 2, comma, and then 3. So look at these are spaced by commas, and you can see that this array has 3 values inside. It has 1, 2, and 3. And if I want to print it out, for instance, if I say cout ARR, do you think all the elements will be printed out? Let's see, execute, compile, and run. You will see that what happened is that we got some crazy number. This is not something unusual. This had to occur because this is basically the address of the array where it is stored in the computer memory. And this is in hexadecimal by the number 0x, indicates that it's a hexadecimal storage. And we didn't even want that. What did we want? We wanted the element inside the array. So how do I indicate, like, I want this first element, or I want the second element, or I want the third element? So arrays are 0 indexed, meaning the first element over here, let me get things more precise, this first element is indicated as a 0, okay? And then the second one, which is over here, will be 1, and the third one will be 2. So if I want the first element, I'll have to give the 0 index. If I want the second one, I have to indicate the 1 index. And if I want the third one, I have to indicate 2 index. This is like a major question that concerns with computer science, and a lot of universities ask these kind of questions. That how do I get the first element or the second element? If you want the first element, you have to do sub 0. So basically, I said array, and these square brackets I call it sub and then 0. And if I say sub 0 and save this and execute and compile and run, you're gonna see the first element, which is 1. Awesome. Now if I want the second one, I could just say, as you know, 1, and you could see execute, compile, and run 2. Okay, now the question arises, okay, I got all of this, but what if I wanted all of the elements printed out? For that, we'll do a loop. So I could either do a while loop, or I could do a for loop, and I could do a while loop, or I could do a for loop. So if I want all those elements printed out, I could do something like, for instance, I'll have to declare, I'm using a while loop. So basically, I could declare something like int I is equal to 0. And now why I started with 0 is the same thing. I said it's 0 index, it starts from 0. Now if I put while I is less than equal to, okay, now the size of the array, and we know it's 3, so it's 1, 2, and 3. So over here, we're not gonna put equal over here, but we're gonna put 3. So 1 is less than 3, and we say cout ARR sub, where's sub, and then we put the I index. And then if I want, I could give a space to it as well. Okay, now the thing will execute, and you're gonna see the elements printed out. And oh my god, something went wrong. What went wrong? I didn't I forgot to increase the element plus. I got an infinite loop. So this is like a lesson that programmers often make mistakes on, is that they forget to increment them at the end, or that cause an infinite loop. These stuff happens. So we want to correct ourselves. So we put this increment operation, and you're gonna see once it's 0, it's gonna go increment 2 to 1, and then it's gonna print out the second index, and then it's gonna go increment 2, and it's gonna print out the third index element, and then after that, once it's 3, it's gonna break out the loop, and we're gonna see nothing. So if I execute this, compile and run, you will see the elements printed out 1, 2, 3. Awesome. So you can still mention, remember I said you don't need the return 0, and still the program works. But this is a good programming practice. So I encourage my viewers and all those who are watching this video to just write this return 0, just to indicate the program that it stops over here. It gives a signal to the main function that program has finished, and now you could conclude. So after this, now suppose if we want something like, we didn't want any element, but we want like the numbers from the user. We could also do like that. For instance, if I say something like 5, I want something more. And I don't have to write all of this down. Let me just delete all this. And what I'm going to do is now I'm going to put for loop. So basically, if I say for int I is equal to 0, index I less than 5 now, and then I increment. So, and what I like about the for loop is that you don't have to remember to increment, or you don't have to, because all of it stated over here in this third part, or in the second part, the initialization, and also the iteration variable is also declared. So that's really neat about the for loop. So now if I want to input values with my array, so I could just say cin, and I could say array, ARR, and sub I, and then I could just like semicolon, And then all the values, what I'm going to press, like for instance, if I write 100, enter 200, enter 300, enter, it's going to print, it's going to save 5 elements inside from 0 to 4. And now, if I want to display them out, I could say something like, okay, so one more thing I wanted to tell over here is that you could put something called a comment. And these are 2 forward slashes, and you could say something like input, which is for input. And then I could put something over here, and I say something like output, O-U-T-P-U-T. Okay, so what these comments do is basically nothing. It's just readable for the programmers out there. Like if someone wants to read your code, it makes the readability of the program better. It doesn't affect the computer or the compiler. Compiler is just designed to ignore these comments. These are just good for the programmers. It makes your readability, your program's readability better. Okay, so J less than, we could say the same 5, and then after that J++, and then after that we could just print out the value, so ARR sub and J. Notice that I used a different iteration variable, and now if I save this, you're gonna see something really neat. Compile and run. Okay, so what happened over here, I got an error that, oh yeah, I forgot to put J, I didn't put I, so my bad, oopsie poopsie. So compile and run. Why did I say poopsie? Okay, so now, for instance, if now why is it blank? Because I prompt the user, to enter some 5 elements. So I could, like, for instance, I could write 100, and then I could say enter, and then I say 200, enter, 300, enter, 400, enter, 500. And now, then after that, you could see them displayed. That was awesome. Just to make our program even better, we could console out over here and say something like enter 5 numbers, and also like something like 1 by 1, so the user knows they're all together. And then over here you could say something like, first you could give a new line and say your output. Awesome. Save it, execute, compile, and run. And now if I enter numbers like, for instance, 900, and then I could also enter like this, I just have to give the space, and the compiler will just ignore all the spaces and put them inside the respective buffers. So basically 903, 83, 3, all of this, and then random numbers I put, and then in my output it was exactly the same. One thing I put is extra number over here. 5 were done, I put the 6th number, and that didn't read. That was left in the buffer, and it's still remaining in the buffer. But after that, the program executed, terminated, and just printed out these 5 required numbers. Okay, so that was awesome. And now I wanted to also highlight out that we could also use other data types, like, for instance, we could put characters. And now what is the special thing about characters? The thing is that characters when they're including as an array, they're treated as strings in C++. And so they have the same kind of functionality as the strings in C++. You could say like that, but they're like a little old, but have some of those features. And those features we'll discuss. Like, for instance, if I say something like 10, and then I give squiggly brackets, and then you have to put like character by character. For instance, I could say C, and then comma, and then L, then comma, then I could say E, then comma, and then V, comma, clever E, and then R. Okay, so it took time, but I put character by character. So C, L, E, V, E, R. And then there's one more secret behind all of this, that characters are terminated using something called a \0. So every character is terminated using this. So remember that \0. So if I know that there's 6 characters or 6 letters in clever, you're gonna have to put 7 because of the \0. So if I like print it out, for instance, console out, and I say ARR, something like that, and then if I execute this, compile and execute, you're gonna see clever out. That is cool, and that's really awesome. That 7th index indicates a \0, which is a speciality in C strings. And these are basically called C strings. These character arrays are called C strings. Awesome. I hope you enjoyed this video. That was it for this video. In the next video, we'll be introducing something really cool, and which is part of something called file handling, and it's gonna get really crazy, and it's gonna get so cool, and it's not hard, man. I'll take your hand. You're gonna enjoy this, and you're gonna love it. So stay tuned. See you in the next one.